In the middle of the desert, hundreds of young people are forced to dig holes in the sand under a scorching sun. The working conditions are inhuman, so one boy, seeing a rattlesnake nearby, does not hesitate to let himself be bitten to end his suffering. Meanwhile, in the city, Stanley Yelnats is walking peacefully when he is knocked down by a pair of shoes falling from the sky. The shoes stink, but his father is working on a cure for foot odor, so Stanley decides to take them home. However, the young man is quickly surrounded and arrested by the police, who reveal that the shoes belong to a famous baseball player, and were stolen during a charity event. The police take him to his parents and inform the family of the incident, and to the officer's surprise, the Yelnats say it's all the fault of a family curse. Stanley is taken to court, but all the evidence is against him. His house is full of shoes of all kinds, and he also has posters of the baseball player to whom the stolen shoes belong on the wall, so he is found guilty and sentenced to 18 months of detention in the Grin Lake camp. The place is in the middle of the desert, and upon arrival, Stanley sees all the young men in prison uniforms. The boy is sent to the administrator, Mr. Sir, who quickly explains how things work there. The camp is built over an old village, and has no fences or watchtowers, as it is surrounded by miles and miles of sweltering, desolate desert, so no one dares to escape. Sir hands Stanley his new uniform, and tells him that every day he will have to dig holes 5 feet deep and in diameter. The longer it takes him to dig, the longer he will remain under the sun. He also tells her that they are not looking for anything in particular, but if she finds something of interest, she might earn the day off. Later, the camp psychologist, Dr. Podansky, shows him around and takes him to the place where he will sleep, along with some of his new co-workers, who are nicknamed X-Ray, Magnet, and Zero, who call him that because he hasn't said a word yet. At lunch, the prisoners are given only a plate of beans, and X-Ray steals some food from Stanley saying he doesn't need it because he hasn't worked today. The boys ask Stanley why he was sent here, and when he tells them what happened to the shoes, Zero speaks in surprise for the first time, asking if the shoes were white and red. As night falls, Stanley can't sleep and remembers how it was that his family fell under a curse. It turns out that his great-grandfather, Stanley I, had made a fortune as a young man, but one day he was mugged by an outlaw, known as Keith the Kisser. She stole his chest with everything he had, and left him abandoned in the middle of the desert. However, the story goes back even further, when Stanley was first younger and began working on a small farm in Europe, where he fell in love with Mira, the owner's daughter. To help him win her over, Stanley visits a fortune teller named Madame Zeroni, but the woman tells him that Mira is a bit of a fool, and advises him to forget about her and move to the United States. Stanley first thinks about it, but decides to ignore the fortune teller's advice and goes to ask his father for his daughter's hand. The man tells him that he wants something in return, and asks him to bring him a big fat pig if he wants any chance of keeping Mira. Stanley returns to Zeroni to ask for help again, and she gives him a piglet, telling him to take it for several days to the mountain and make it drink from a river. When the pig grows big enough, Zeroni tells her that he must also take her to drink from the river, to end the ritual, and that if he does not do so a terrible curse will befall him and all his descendants. Eventually the pig grows large, and Stanley first takes it to Myra's father to win the girl. However, the woman had another suitor, with a pig just as big as Stanley's. Just as Zeroni had said, the girl turned out to be extremely foolish, and did not know which of the two men to keep. Seeing that the woman was hesitating between him, and a dirty and sloppy man, Stanley felt completely offended, and decided to abandon the girl to follow Zeroni's advice and move to the United States. However, in doing so, he forgot to take Zeroni to the mountain and keep his promise, for which she cursed his family and his future generations. Back in the present, Stanley IV gets used to the work at the camp, and one day finds a fossil digging and takes it to Dr. Podansky, but he informs her that the director is not interested in fossils. He also tells him that this area used to be a lake in the past, so they can find all kinds of things. At that point, the film flashes back to the past, where the current camp director's grandfather owned the place. Back then the town was prosperous and full of hard-working people, like Sam, a merchant who was in the business of selling onions. Sam was deeply in love with a teacher named Keat, and he always brought her a free bag of onions for her. Keat was very grateful, however, and in return he would give her a jar of fruit and jam he picked from his orchard. All the men in the village liked Keat, and did not appreciate a dark-skinned man flirting with her. Back in the present, Stanley gets the group to like him better, and he soon gets the nickname Caveman because he is good at finding fossils. One day, the boy receives a letter from his mother, in which she tells him how everything is at home. Sarah sees him and is astonished, revealing that he never learned to read, and asks him to teach him. However, Stanley refuses, saying that the work leaves him exhausted and when he finishes digging he just wants to rest. Several days later, Stanley unearths an object that looks like a spent bullet casing, with the initials KB carved on it. Showing it to his companions, X-Ray takes it from him, and quickly goes to give it to Podansky, who is astonished by the discovery and contacts the camp warden. The woman congratulates X-Ray and rewards him by giving him the day off, and then orders everyone else to keep digging as well, hoping to find something else. The film again takes us back in time, where Sam visits Keith at school. It was a rainy day and the old building was full of leaks, so Sam offers to fix them just to spend more time with her. Eventually the two begin to like each other, and Sam soon sees how the adult class keeps throwing inappropriate comments at him. One night, a very powerful man, Walker, decides to ask her out, but Keith brutally rejects him. As the days go by, Sam finally ends the repairs, but they continue to see each other. One rainy afternoon, Sam and Keith get up enough courage to finally kiss, but unfortunately they are spotted by Walker, who in a fit of rage decides to call his friends, and together they burn down the school. Keith runs to the police station to ask the Sheriff for help, but even he tries to kiss her. Seeing that he has no chance with her, the Sheriff tells her that Sam will be executed, for the crime of having kissed a white woman. Horrified, Keith runs to warn Sam, but it is too late, and she can see him being shot while fleeing in his boat. Some time later, Keith returns to the police station and kills the Sheriff, giving him the kiss the man wanted so badly. After this, Keith decides to leave town and begin her life as an outlaw, leaving a kiss on the cheek of all her victims, and earning the nickname Keith the Kisser. In the present, the young men are digging their respective wells, when suddenly Mr. Sir comes with water for their canteens. In a moment of distraction, Iman takes the opportunity to steal a bag of seeds from Sir's truck, but when he is leaving, the man notices the mistake and returns to scold and punish the boys. As no one says anything, Stanley sacrifices himself for his companions, and says that it was him who stole it. Mr. Sir takes him to the warden's office, expecting him to punish him, and inside he manages to see a bunch of posters about Keith the Kisser. Then, the camp warden approaches him, and shows him a nail polish made from rattlesnake venom. After painting her nails, the woman surprisingly attacks Mr. Sir for interrupting Stanley's digging, and for bothering her over something as silly as some seeds. Upon returning to the digging area, the boys see him as a hero, and Zero finishes digging as well as a thank you. Touched by the gesture, Stanley agrees to teach Zero to read. As Stanley teaches him, the young man remembers the posters he saw in the office, and it doesn't take him long to realize that the supposed shell casing he found buried was actually a lipstick with Keith the Kisser's initials on it. At the same time, Zero reveals that his real name is Hector Zeroni, and apparently the boy is a descendant of Madame Zeroni, who cursed the Yelnats family centuries ago. As Zero has a great ability to dig very fast, the boy begins to help Stanley with his hole, provoking the envy of his other companions. Seeing the situation starting to get out of control, Dr. Podansky intervenes to sanction Zero and Stanley for working together, which greatly enrages Zero, who ends up hitting the doctor with the shovel and escaping into the desert. Later, the doctor meets with the warden and the administrator to discuss Zero's escape, but they decide not to go out looking for him, as they don't think he will survive out there, and since Zero is an orphan no one would come asking for him. At night, Stanley thinks of his friend and remembers how his great-grandfather, Stanley I, survived 16 days in the desert after Keith the Kisser robbed him. Apparently, the man found refuge in a place he called God's Thumb, but no one knows where it is, because Stanley I was completely insane when they managed to find him. The next day, Stanley decides to escape into the unknown to look for his friend Zero. After walking for hours under the scorching desert sun, he finally finds him under an old abandoned boat. Zero reveals that he has been surviving thanks to some jars full of jam he found in the boat, and it becomes clear that the boat was Sam's boat. The two spot a mountain in the distance, and upon seeing the strange silhouette of it, Stanley quickly realizes that it is God's Thumb, where his great-grandfather survived. Hoping to find something up there, the two decide to climb the mountain, but halfway up Zero loses what little strength he has left and falls down. Stanley carries the boy on his back and continues climbing, reaching the top of the mountain. At the top, Stanley sees some plants and a small stream of water. The boy wakes his friend and they both eat and drink from the river, unaware that this was what Madame Zeroni had asked his great-grandfather Stanley centuries before, which accidentally fulfills Zeroni's promise and breaks the curse. Back at home, Stanley's father finally gets the formula for foot odor. The next day, Zero confesses that Stanley is in the camp because of him. It turns out that he was the one who stole the shoes from the charity donation room, and when he heard the police he panicked, throwing them off the bridge. Stanley was so unlucky that they landed on his head, but he doesn't get angry and takes it as fate, glad that it happened, because thanks to that he found God's Thumb. At the same time, Stanley is declared innocent and the lawyer arrives at the camp, but the warden hides that the boy escaped and throws her out of the place. The film flashes back to the past, where we see Keat on Sam's abandoned boat, remembering the beautiful time she spent with him. At that moment, Walker and his wife approach her, and threaten her to reveal the hiding place of all the fortune she stole, since the lake dried up, the town lost all its wealth. However, Keat says nothing, and gets herself bitten by a poisonous lizard. Since then, Walker and all his predecessors, including the camp manager, have been digging the desert in search of Keat's treasure. On the other hand, Stanley and Zero decide to return to the well where they found the girl's lipstick, and after much digging they finally find the treasure. At that moment, Sir and the warden see them, but a bunch of poisonous lizards start to come out of the ground and cover both the chest and the boys. The warden expects the animals to attack Zero and Stanley, but the next morning the lizards are still there, protecting them. After a while, the Yelnats family lawyer arrives on the scene with the police. The warden makes up that the boys stole the chest from her office and escaped, but Zero proves it is a lie, pointing to the name Stanley Yelnats written on the lid. As a result, the warden and the other camp officials are placed under arrest, and Stanley is released, allowing him to take the chest with him. At home, the family divides the treasure equally with Zero, and the orphan uses part of it to hire private investigators, who help him search for his mother and reunite with her. At the end of the story, Zero's family and Stanley buy nice houses in a gated community and become neighbors, and invite their other campmates to play. In addition, Stanley's father's invention against foot odor becomes a great success, and even the famous baseball star who had denounced them works for them, and now advertises for them. Subscribe and turn on notifications to see more videos like this. Leave a like to help the channel out, and thank you for watching.